What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. That's Emilio. We're both in Tennessee for some reason. Don't know why, but we're here to talk some Packers this morning. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We give out Emilio's Twitter account, but he likes to keep it on the D-low. You know what I mean? So that's the way he rolls there. But how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm good. Donovan chilling already on us today.
How many times are you going to come to my press conference late?
Hey, man, it happens.
I'm just happy I woke up. You know what I'm saying?
My favorite one was someone gets stuck on the potty. Love it. So obviously Tim's on the road today. He's taking care of way more important things than talking to us. Yeah, no doubt about that. So we're going to dive into a multitude of topics. We got a lot of different angles we could take this as we're getting real deep into the off season here. I know the coaching interviews and everything's cranking up. We'll hopefully once a decision's finally made, they typically trickle in after this round right here, the divisional round. You start to see hires being made, right? So there's a lot of lying going on right now, a lot of coaching agents trying to create buzz. There's also teams trying to throw smoke screens. So going to be interesting. I do think that Jeff Hafley's safe. I really believe that. Now it comes to, okay, what does Robert Saleh want to do? Does he want to stay in Green Bay? Or does he want to go be a DC? I can't imagine he would turn down a DC job, to be honest with you. So I have a hard time believing he'll be a head coach as well. But we'll get all that information to you guys and gals as we move along in the off season. Let's go to the Patreon group. Arizona, or AZ Marky Mark, I should say, said no mock drafts until after the Senior Bowl. So there you go. He laid the parameters out for us. Trevor Anderson, Ja could be frustrated with the team if they recommended to not have surgery when he first injured the knee, and then he needed it anyway. I feel like this isn't the first time the team has tried to go no surgery just for the player to end up needing it later and keeping them out longer than just doing the surgery from the start. It's exactly what happened with David Bakhtiari, right, Emilio? He seemed like he was a little bitter, Bach did, because the whole story wasn't getting out there. You know, if you watch the presser from Matt, and one of the reasons that we thought there was problems there between him and David Bakhtiari is because Coach LaFleur was kind of like, he seemed frustrated, like he almost like the vibe you got. He never said he should be out there, but the vibe you got was like he should be out there. And then Bach comes along later after the season, after he's cut, and was like, they don't talk about my knee swelling. They don't talk about the extra surgery, however many surgeries, was 6 surgeries or something crazy on that one knee. It was insane. So I do think there's a little bit of validity to this. That could be why Ja is a little upset, but at the same time, the way Ja has acted the last couple of years, he's not built up that I don't know if rapport is the right word.
A little bit of the to-do list that you get done for Mandy. You want to store a little bit of that in the bank. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You want to get out ahead of the problem. You want to build what I call a little credit with people. Right? Yeah. Like seriously, we're humans. We're all going to screw up. I screw up way more than the average human, I promise you. But when you're on your game, you want to try to do things right. You want to try to do right by people. You want to take care of people. That way, when you do screw up, they go, I know where his heart's at. It feels like Ja's been playing with an empty bank account there the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that's tough just because, with Ja being, hurt, we expected a lot from him. And I think that's where I kind of fall back to, if it was IR ready, would we have felt better about the situation if we just threw Ja on IR in week 6 or 7 or whenever that real one came on, and then not ask him to come out week 11 and play 5 snaps and then get hurt again? And how would the fans view it if he was just IR'd and go from there? Maybe that would have, given Goody a little bit more ammunition to come back at him. But it would almost make me feel a little bit better if we just had him kind of, hey, Ja, you're over there, you're hurt, we get it. We're going to figure out some numbers when we're done. But you trying to chase it all year, keeping up a roster spot, all that stuff. What would have happened if we had, just an extra spot? So, it's tough.
It is tough, man. Chris Ann says, Emilio, we're impressed you made it. He gave you a little applause there. Love it.
Appreciate it.
Drew D in the chat said, I evaluated cornerbacks last night. Benjamin Morrison, I think he meant Morrison with an M, had a hip injury, but talent-wise, he's my CB1. Trey Amos is my CB2. You guys know I'm a Notre Dame fan, right? Big Notre Dame fan here. Obviously, hope we win a natty there on Monday night. But I'm not as big on Morrison as most people are. I think he is a solid corner, don't get me wrong. I think he's got the potential to be a great NFL corner. But there's others that I look at and go, I got less questions around them. Right.
So
that makes me feel better, Drew, that he's your top corner. It really does, because I've been kind of second guessing Benjamin Morrison as that he's that dude in the draft. Right now, the hip, boy, that can be an issue big time. Right. Anytime anybody mentions a hip injury, I will always refer to Bo Jackson. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, when this show's over, go to YouTube, type in Bo Jackson hip injury, and just find any documentary on it, because hips can be, oh man, as Shakira once said, the hips don't lie, right, Emilio?
Oh, no, they don't. No, and they can hurt. They can hurt real bad.
Yes, they can. So that's good to see, though, Drew, that you're on Benjamin Morrison, man. It makes me feel
Morrison
better.
was a 93 card, though, Clay, in
of course he was.
Ultimate Team. So, I mean, the dude was kind of nice. I don't know. But, yeah, no, I get your point, honestly, because it's the kind of the cornerback room this year. It looks like they not that they're fluttered with injuries, but, Morrison got hurt. Siobhan Revelle coming off the ACL. I think there's a couple of guys that had some bigger injuries. Are you, Packers have always kind of been hesitant on that. Let's see, are they going to break their stride this year? I don't know.
Right. And Drew said, who do you like? I've got a couple. Obviously, Travis Hunter is going to be long gone, right? And I'm not as big on Travis Hunter as most people. You see the Heisman, you think, oh, this guy's dynamic. I think he will be a great pro. But the one that really pops off the tape to me, there's multiple here. You said Trey Amos, that's one. But the one for me is Jaire Barron with Texas, because he's versatile too. He's got some slot experience, but PFF grade at Texas, 90.8. We know Texas joined the SEC this year, so it's not like they were playing horrible, competition down there in the Southeastern Conference. Now, there's an argument to be made that the Big Ten is dominant now, right? I mean, you see, we got a Big Ten representative, and we got obviously the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are independent. So I don't know, man. For me, it's not as easy as he's my number one, he's my number two, because I've got 7 more qualifiers to add into my draft board before the final grade is done. So it's going to be a long time before I can definitively say that's the guy there. But Jaire Brown is the one that really pops off to me. Jaire Alexander was another one, and like you said, Siobhan Revelle is another one as well.
Yeah, and then again, you're falling back injury. Where are they located? I think we like Jaire Barron just so much. He played kind of all over, played a lot in the slot, a lot on the outside. Can play in the box. You want somebody that's going to be. I mean, especially if you're pulling that early. I mean, if he's our first pick, if corner does end up being that first pick, you're going to want somebody almost like our O-line. I need you to play a couple positions, even if you're not going to be starting outside or, in the slot, all that stuff.
Yeah. Donovan Schilling says Alexander's a dog, so he's obviously a fan there. Now, one of the things I like to do when we start breaking down, we're through the first top 50 prospects according to the consensus big board. And of those top 50 that I've got the first wave of grades in on for my draft board, and again, this is nowhere near a finished product, but I like to kind of monitor, okay, who's rising to the top, as Macho Man once said? What cream is rising to the top here? Here's the players that are really sticking out to me. Defensive tackle Mason Graham, halfback Ashton Jeanty, quarterback Shedeur Sanders, wide receiver Tetero. Is that what we're going with? Tetero McMillan. Edge defender James Pierce, tight end Colston Loveland, and edge defender Mike Green. Here's the guy. Mike Green was the one that really popped to me like, why is no one talking about Mike Green out of Marshall? Probably because he played at Marshall, right?
Yep.
So, and we'll see. Maybe that'll translate. Maybe it won't. I just put that in there just as a quick reference. I'm going to do that all year long as I continue to build the board. As when we get to the top 100, I'll add any other players that may have rose up into this group as well on the current tier. So next we got Chris Nichols in the Patreon group said, most of those projected to go before 23, right? I've seen a few mocks with Pierce to the pack. Mike Green, I don't have the consensus big board pulled up, but Mike Green was like around the 34 spot. I'm pretty sure Colston Loveland, if I remember correctly, too, may have been outside of it. Let me go to the consensus big board there. Emilio, you got anything to add to that question as I pull this up?
No, I don't think so. I was trying to pull it up for you. Dude is looks like PFF had him 47th. Is that where you had him at, Mike Green? I think that it's possible, yeah, that all of those guys go in the top 25, most definitely. But we haven't even named some of the other big ones. Let's not forget it's a quarterback draft and the NFL draft. So
Exactly right.
how many quarterbacks are we going to kind of line up in there and put in that first round pool? I'd like to see that, and then we can kind of go from there and judge. Are we going to save a pick or two just because they're going to pull, Jalen Milroe at 15 just because he's a quarterback?
Right. Yeah. So we've got them pulled up here. I've got it in another on another page here. I'll read them off and match them up. Defensive tackle Mason Graham is 5th overall on the consensus big board. Halfback Ashton Gianti is number 10 on the big board. Shedeur Sanders is number 2 on the big board. McMillan is number 6 on the big board. James Pierce is in the 14 spot on the big board. Tight end Colston Loveland is 20th on the big board. And edge Mike Green, let's see if he's changed since then. I don't think he has, is 34th on the big board. So Mike Green's the one that I'm like, man, that dude looks like he should probably be hovering around the top 10 because it's a position of tier 1 importance. Again, it's probably the fact that he played for Marshall.
And a guy like that, Clay, it's going to be one of those where when he shows up at the Senior Bowl or, East-West Shrine Bowl, whatever it is, that's going to be one that kind of spikes his stock. I mean, that's one where you're looking at it. How are you performing against some higher talent because we haven't been able to see you there? That would be like the Quinyon Mitchell of this year's draft. Hey, he's super good at Toledo. Can he cover some fast guys from the SEC? Yeah. So I like that.
Yeah. So, pretty much all of them but Mike Green, Chris Nichols, of those, however many they were, 7 guys that I listed are all in the top 23. Yeah, they'll probably be gone, I would imagine. You never know with tight ends, though. It's rare you get 2 tight ends go that early. So,
and I'm hoping, like I said, let's roll out some quarterbacks. I'd like to kind of get a pool of who we think might be a first-round quarterback just to see if we can get a buffer going into some of those rounds.
Right, and back to Drew D's point earlier, Benjamin Morrison peaked at 14. He's currently at 23 on the big board. I'm trying to see if he's still the top corner. I think he is. Now, Will Johnson out of Michigan is the top corner. Nope. It's Travis Hunter at number 3, Will Johnson at 7, and Benjamin Morrison is now down to 23rd on the consensus big board. So up next, we got Ron Samville in the Patreon group, wondering what a futures contract looks like, money and duration. I don't know a whole lot about futures contracts, Ron. The way I understand it is it resets to kind of a 2-year deal. And when I say a 2-year deal, it might not be technically a 2-year deal. There might be restrictions on his free agency on a futures contract. We could look up that information. I don't want to spend too much time on it. If anyone wants to look it up in the anybody wants to look it up in the chat, just post it in there. If you don't want to copy and paste, hey, here's how the futures contracts work, or if you see it too, then you'll feel free to fire away.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Ron Samville says, last year we talked about what choices need to be added to move up in the first round. Can we go over that again at some point? I'm trying to understand that question. I think what he's asking is what it would take to trade up maybe in the first round, like what draft you have to give up.
What's going to kind of cost us.
Yeah, we can do that. We can look at the draft chart here in a little bit for sure, man. So we could take a look at that, on a later show. But yeah, I think it would be important to kind of understand the draft chart. It's just so hit or miss, in my opinion. Some people treat the draft chart like it's the gospel and you got to go buy it to the point. But there's other people that laugh at it, because there's been a revamped one. The original trade chart or draft pick trade chart was actually created by Jimmy Johnson back in the day, and it's been revamped. And teams are not really going by the book. They may use it as a parameter, right? And that is kind of the way we did it last year, though. We used PFF, didn't we? And we trade up and kind of determine here's what it would take.
And I think we did float back and forth in mock draft database, just trying to get an idea on, cost. And then you go from your public board to, the private board or the PFF board, all that. So I do think that that's a possibility. Going back to just Ron Samville's future contracts, just 2 little paragraphs says future contracts following the conclusion of an NFL regular season. There will be numerous announcements of a team signing players to reserve future contracts, also referred to as future contract. As the word future indicates, his contract does not count until later on. Although there are no limitation to the contract player, to the contract a player can sign for a reserve future contract. They are generally for the league minimum amount, depending on the player's credited seasons. While there's nothing stopping teams from including a signing bonus to future contract, they are more exception than the rule. So it looks like, you're kind of walking that, bare minimum, veteran kind of line and just go from there and see where, see where they stand.
Yeah, sounds like it. Appreciate you pulling that up. Drew D, this draft is weak in my opinion, and usually that means trading up is cheaper and you get less for trading down. I've thought the same thing, Drew. I'm looking at this draft and I'm going, boy, this just feels weaker than the most recent years. Now, we won't know until a year or two from now when we look up and go, dang, this draft was loaded or this draft sucked.
Right.
On the surface, comparatively speaking, I agree. It does seem a little off. But maybe it's early and our, opinion will change as more information comes in. We'll see.
Like Prince said here, free agency looks weak as so far as well. Really going to be challenging for college scouts and pro personnel guys this year. What would you say, Clayton? You think that free agency looks weaker or the draft looks weaker overall compared to last year?
Oh boy. I think they're both down.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe I get,
That's what I was thinking.
That's the thing is like we got a little bit of money and we'll talk about how much money here in a minute. Matter of fact, I don't think I saved that. Maybe I did. I had an article that showed draft capital and cap space and everything. And we're actually in the bottom third of the league in draft capital, believe it or not, or at least the bottom half. So, in my opinion, it's kind of how it feels on the surface. But again, it doesn't mean this couldn't go down as one of the best draft classes, right? There's been times in the past where this is a great quarterback class.
Mm-hmm.
None of them pan out. And then other times you think it's weak and two guys step up and they're franchise quarterbacks, right? So just I think more times than not, it goes into from the draft. I think it comes down to player development and how good these coaches are at developing the players and that kind of that developmental trait, if you will, that a player may or may not have, right? That's plays into it more than anything. So, and I think that's why former players kind of scoff at PFF and roll their eyes at stuff that we deep dive into because they're like, none of this matters if you can't get a good position coach in there to get the best out of that player, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we're looking at a new D-line. It's you gotta, even if you think you're close, there's always an opportunity to get better or find someone that can get you better.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. All right, let's move on to draft needs according to PFF. I thought this was interesting. And then we're going to go to a couple tweets I sent out. I want to get your all's take on it. So this is basically positions of need. All right. According to PFF for the Packers, they have center, wide receiver, edge, and cornerback. So once again, they don't even mention defensive tackle, right? It says the Packers have one of the deeper receiving rooms in the NFL, but are likely to still chase a player who can develop into a true number one wide receiver this offseason. Oyamanoor, I think is how you say it, has enjoyed 2 solid seasons at Stanford, earning PFF receiving grades above 70 in both years. So their name dropping wide receiver Alec Oyamanoor. Is that right?
I would say that's pretty close.
All right. Out of Stanford. Now, again, day 1 or 2 option, they left themselves some buffer there, right? Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So I love how it's like, just within 64 picks, they'll probably take this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know if Goody's trading out of the first yet, but we'll give us the first 2 rounds.
Right. So I wanted to set the stage for that right there, kind of set the table with they're saying center, wide receiver, edge, corner, D tackle is nowhere around, right? Well, let's hop over to my Twitter page, and I did a little bit of research this morning. I love doing this every year, especially this time when you get to the final 8 teams. I like to kind of take a look and go, okay, what are these teams? How are they built, right? And it's always the same teams that are kind of the final 4 that you're going, man, they're built to win the whole thing. So I said of the final 8 teams in the NFL playoffs, here are their starting centers PFF grades for 2024. The Chiefs, 92.8. Yeah, that's Creed Humphrey. We'll move on quick, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Lions center position, 85.3. The Ravens, 80.9. The Bills have 2 different centers because of injuries, 71.6 and 74.1. Like you've got 2 that blow our center out of the water, right? Eagles 67.2. Obviously, they're still trying to replace Jason Kelsey. The Commanders 66.6. The Texans, 63.1, and the Rams are at 55.9. Now, to compare to the Packers, over the last 4 years going backwards, our center position, 54.2, 54.7, 60.4, 57.5. Now you say, okay, but we got a good offense. I agree. We got a legit top 10 offense every year. But what happens when we get to the playoffs? We get beat up in the damn trenches every time, right? So it's like, if you're going to take that next step, you've got to change something. You got to do something different. And that's why I personally feel like if we're looking at the draft and at the top half of the draft, Emilio, there's no centers that just jump off the page, right?
No JPJ.
Right. When you look at the center position in free agency, there's one guy to 78.8 and Drew Dowman that I go, I'd be okay with him. And if that's the case, to me, the only two options other than praying to sweet baby Jesus you hit on one in the later rounds and you just find an absolute gem is go after Drew Dowman in free agency or move Elton Jenkins to center and go ahead and work in Jordan Morgan and whatever depth you add to the offensive line in the draft. Let's get center figured out. How many years are we going to neglect this damn position and watch every other team who is elite in the league take it so serious? And we're just going to continue to just, it's good enough. He's playing his best football. I think we're okay. PFF isn't everything. How many times have we shown the tape, though? And Josh Myers is just running loose down the field. And I don't mean to pile on. It is what it is. Yeah. He's running loose down the field. He's got the athleticism to get to the second level, and he can't reach a block. He can't. It's just something's off. It hasn't worked, right? And if you can get him back for cheap, cool, sign me up. But I'm not in that camp of, hey, let's pay Josh Myers $8, $9, $10 million a year to be your center of the future. If we do that, we get what's coming to us, man.
Right. Yeah, Judy here. I feel like Myers' injury is going to help us get away from him. I think that's definitely a true statement there. I mean, at that point, I would much rather have, two edges solidified, someone that touches the ball every single play. We want that to be over 60. I mean, we were lucky that in 2022 we just got it over 60. That's baseline. We're expecting him to get to the second level. He's got to make the calls. He's got to set protection, all that stuff. I think that you're right. Elton could do it. Tom can do it. But I would much rather have a triangle, two edges in the center, solid on the wall, and then fill in. You can always rotate your guards and kind of work through that as you see fit.
Yeah, definitely. And the chat is on fire. Appreciate y'all joining in on this conversation. Chris N says Packers need elite talents like the Eagles. It's easier said than done, absolutely, but need to target some high-end talent in free agency and the draft. That's the thing. Like, I understand it's not, hey, you just wave a magic wand and bang, you got an elite center. I know it doesn't work like that. But I'll tell you how you don't find one. Going into every year there's no competition. Josh Myers is our center. Like, what are we doing? It's like we're treating it as if it isn't even important, right? Yeah. And it's wild, too, because Goody has done so good with other aspects of the roster. I mean, I would argue top 3 GM in the league with some of the moves he's made, right? It's like this dude gets it, but it's like they just don't think center is that important. It's the only thing I could come up with. And every year I do this and I get mad. And then by the time the first of the season starts, I'm okay, well, this is what they know more than me. I'm just a knucklehead. Roll Josh Myers back out there. And then at the end of the year, we're looking up again going, we got our asses kicked between the tackles and our center was hot trash. And now here we are, doing our thing, pretending like we have a center when we really don't. So it's frustrating for me. All right, next, Milltown Corey. Drew Dowman is proven at center. Jenkins is proven guard. I hope they leave Jenkins alone. See, the thing about Jenkins was he was a center in college, and I know the Packers have said in the past if he was playing center, he would be all-pro center. Now, not everyone. Some people like to judge how Elton played when he's thrown in the mix in the middle of a rainstorm in the middle of the season. Yep. Oh, he didn't snap the ball well. It's like, if he was practicing week in and week out at center, I guarantee you he'd be a top 5 center. There's no doubt in my mind he would be a top 5 center.
And I know that Milltown Corey is Tim's burner because he's protecting Jenkins from. We know Jenkins, is solid there. But I mean, you're right. You're asking him to come in, no reps at practice, nothing. A couple of snaps go haywire, and it's over. But then, you also got to be ready for the craft cheat, the craft push, all that stuff. All those things are on the center. You know what I mean? That's something that, hey, different, it's just a different set of hands going up there to get the snap. So I mean those are the kind of things you got to be ready for. And I like that, even if we do have that mobility, imagine pulling Elton or whoever's at center, but we're asking them to do a lot, get to the second level, turn a guy, double team, get up. And I think that's something that we have a few guys that can play those positions, and that's why the Packers draft them the way they do. They want the best five. They're going to say that forever. They want the best five out there, whoever it is, however that gets together, and they're just going to chase it, I think.
Yeah. And I know the name that keeps getting brought up is Jacob Monk. Like, Joseph asked, have we ever heard specifics about Monk's development from the coaches, how they feel about him? This is how I anticipate that happening. It's going one or two things are going to happen. Either Jacob Monk's going to emerge in training. Let's say we don't touch center this year. Jacob Monk emerges and he's the starting center and he plays great. And he's the next Zach Tom, right? Like, it's just like, wow, they hit on one here, because coaching staff was raving over him when they first drafted him, right? And many of the media members were too. I remember specifically Jason Wilde talking a lot about him. Like, hey, this guy, they seem to really like him. That's either going to happen, Emilio, or what's going to happen is we're going to look up next year and we're going to be, Jacob Monk's playing pretty good. He graded out a 60. That's not bad. And then it'll be hovering around 60, and we'll look up and we'll get bounced in the first round. And then these other teams will have dominant center play, and we'll be going, here we are again. Like, you got to put a priority on it. It's in my opinion, it's the third most important position on offense. And I know people are going to laugh at that. I don't care. Look at how these teams are built. Look at how Pat Mahomes has played the last couple of years. He has not played that good. Why are they winning? Because they're built in the trenches. You got Chris Jones on one side, and you got Creed Humphrey on the other.
Right.
And again, there's no doubt in my mind, Goody thought that Josh Myers was better than Creed Humphrey. He's probably a little more athletic. So if it had been the other way around, who knows? We'd probably be staring at these deep playoff runs, right? If Patrick Mahomes had one of the worst graded, a center that's not even graded out as a starting center in the league. Like, he's graded out underneath 32. That's a hard thing to overcome. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prince in the chat, I think they want a franchise type center and had hoped Myers would be that guy, but he turned out to be.
And why wouldn't you hope that Myers would be that guy? He's 6'3", 6'4", 3 and change. I mean, dude's a wall. If you could get him to produce at what you thought he would be, I know coming out of Ohio State, we are set. We're cruising. But yeah, you're right. That center is touching the ball 60, 70 times a game. Right. I mean, it doesn't matter. It really, we need somebody in there that's squared away, ready to go. We need good fundamentals, all that stuff. And like I said, I need you over 60 PFF bare minimum, right? If we want to kind of chase it down. Obviously, the Rams look at with the 55-9. You can scheme it as long as you want. At some point, that middle, the quickest way to the quarterback's right up the middle, right in his face. Right. So.
Yep. Ron Samuel says Tom Brady sure agrees with Clayton on the importance of center. And again, you were talking about pressure in your face, Emilio. What are offensive lines taught? If you don't know the answer to the protection, always guess inside.
Mm-hmm.
Never leave a free rusher up the middle. A and B gap, that's off limits. If you're going to screw up in the C. That way the quarterback can kind of make up for it, right? So that's why it makes so much sense to me to hey, you need to anchor this offensive line from the inside out. You've got a very good left tackle in Rasheed Walker.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a great, damn near elite tackle in Zach Tom. Get the center position taken care of. And that's why the easy fix, Elton the center, that's taken care of. The three most important positions on the offensive line is taken care of. And now you can beef up that interior guard with drafting a couple tackles, which is why we did that deep dive. And we were talking about depth in the draft, especially in the first half of the draft. I quit saying depth because when I say depth, I think you've got a multitude of players. But I break the draft down into halves. I look at it like the first 3 rounds and then the last 4 is how I always look at the draft. And I don't – just because there's a crap ton of players that are above average in the second half of the draft, to me that doesn't constitute this is a deep draft. When I say it's a deep draft, I mean there's a ton of talent all the way across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tackles are everywhere. And the Packers love drafting tackles and converting them. And a couple of those with versatility, one of them is that Gray Zabel, right? He's the one that really sticks out from North Dakota State University. Very versatile, PFF grade of 90.4. I could see somebody like that being drafted and then converted to guard. Now, I know people are going to throw a fit when that happens because we did it with Jordan Morgan and he got hurt. Therefore, it's a bad pick. I'm just telling you right now, it wasn't a bad pick because if he had been healthy, you've seen how bad we needed that depth against the Eagles. So,
and they were trying to put him in, And like I said, that's where I want that triangle. I want that triangle to be solid. Center, 2 tackles. We can figure out what's in between afterwards, but I really do think that's going to be key.
Yeah. Mart84 said the sad part, Creed had a perfect RAS score. He was the perfect Goop pick. That's wild to think about. I did not know that. Like, why? I wonder why he passed up on Creed Humphrey. Because that's the first thing that came to mind for me, Emilio, is like, well, maybe he wasn't as athletic as Josh Myers. It sounds like.
Where did Creed go to school? Do you remember?
That's a great question.
Because I was just wondering if it was kind of a talent thing, just because when you're looking at it, Goody likes to go to the bigger schools. We got Georgia guys, we have SEC guys. Ohio State's in the national championship this year. They're always kind of in the mix. Oklahoma. And I mean, maybe you look at it and say, hey, would you rather have an Ohio State guy that's played up in the cold, been here, been there, or would you rather have someone that's down a little bit south, it's maybe a little hotter. I don't know if, you like the offense. Maybe that scheme wasn't what Matt was looking for. So there's a bunch of different, levels to it.
Right. I think the reason they went with Josh Myers is they said, oh, yeah, his daddy played for the Kentucky Wildcats. We got to get him in here. You kidding me? So, there you go. All right, so let's move on to the other side of the ball, the trenches as well. Another tweet I put out. And remember, keep in mind, PFF did say center was top priority, but they had defensive tackle nowhere, right?
Yep.
I said of the final 8 teams in the NFL playoffs, here are their best defensive tackles PFF grades for 2024. Kansas City Chiefs, 89.7. That's Chris Jones. And here's the thing about Chris Jones. He can play 3-tech. He can play nose. He can play wide 9. They move him all around. They use him to just mismatch anywhere and everywhere on that defensive line. But that's what you're talking about in a true 3-tech. All right. Ravens, 81.0. The Lions, 79.6. The Rams, 75.3. The Eagles, 73.4. The Bills, 70.4. Commanders, 58.9. Texans, 58.5. Here's what's crazy. I did it in the order on both center and defensive tackle here, Emilio. And when you look at these, you don't think the Commanders and Texans are the stronger team, right? And here they are at the bottom. You think they're the weaker teams. When you really look at them, if you had to bet the farm on it, if it was the Chiefs versus the Texans, who are you taking? You're taking the Chiefs, right? If it was the Ravens versus the Commanders, who are you taking? You're probably taking the Ravens.
Yep.
Well, guess what? They're built from the inside out, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, which is why I'm saying we're probably gonna overlook 3-tech this year. And we're going to look up next year and probably get similar grades. And the only thing that makes me okay with that, if we overlook 3-tech, is because the defense did play well this year. It's like it wasn't a factor that, oh crap, we suck. But if you want to have that impact that the Eagles had on the Packers in that playoff game, you need a dominant 3-tech.
Mm-hmm. We need somebody that's going to get in the backfield, down in, down out, or the ability to get in the backfield. Not that our D-line can't. We just didn't get the production. And then you look at it. We were saying the Rams were rough looking at their center was what, a 50-something. But then you go back to their defensive line, 75 plus. I mean, you could maybe take one or the other. You could be good at one or the other. But then you look at the Chiefs; they're good at both. So I mean, if that's your ticket to paradise, I think you got to try to chase that down. I think that's what Goody was kind of saying. We always want to build from the trenches, but we just got to stick to it. We gotta be true to that, either with player development or, with finding someone in the draft or free agency.
Yeah. And then when you look at the Packers grades here, going from 2024 backwards for defensive tackle, 66.4 was Devontae White. That's not horrible. That would be above the Commanders here. But the problem is he played 366 snaps, right? So obviously he battled injuries all year long. Kenny Clark was 60.0. All right. In 2023, Kenny Clark was 70.4 under Joe Barry's final year, right? 2022, 69.9. That was Devontae Wyatt with only 224 snaps. And Kenny Clark was a 66.4. In 2021, which feels like a lifetime ago, Kenny was a 75.4. in whatever defense that would have been. Would that have been Joe Barry in 21? That would have. I think it was. It was his first year.
First year.
Yeah. So Kenny actually played pretty good ball under Joe Barry. And that's, again, you got to step back too and go, it's all signs point to what Jeff Hafley did last year was what we've seen on tape. Hey, guys, we're going to sacrifice the pass rush to stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
It worked, right? Now, go get a damn dominant 3-tech, and at any point you could turn him loose and just be a game wrecker, right? Yeah. And just like center, it's not like they're falling off trees. You're going to have to take multiple swings to find one. I just think it's important to really do that.
Especially just like everybody in the NFL, you want to get pressure with 4. Us specifically. I mean, that's if our scheme was to play 3 high, 4 under, and we ended up having to play 2 high shell or 1 high, single high, and kind of play man underneath and that sort of different things. The ability to get pressure with 4 is absolutely crucial. And I don't think that we had that exactly this year, that we could lean on it and play 7 in coverage and feel safe. I do think that's something they got to dig at.
Yeah. Joseph in the chat talks about Derek Harmon here. Let's pull up the PFF big board and just take a quick gander at these rookies. And we're going to go a little bit deeper than just like the top half of the draft. We'll comb through and see if there's any gems on the backside. Joseph says Derek Harmon's pretty darn close to the same physical profile as Chris Jones. I've got Derek Harmon just on my little cheat sheet here. It doesn't mean that it's final. He's one of 5 defensive tackles I've got earmarked in this draft. And he's 83rd according to PFF. His PFF grade was an 83.6 out of Oregon. But let's see if we can find him here and just take a quick glance at Derek Harmon. He's mentioned 6'5", 310, so he definitely got that reach. PFF grades 59.8, 78.4, 83.6. Now, will he last to the 83rd pick? That's not what the big board's saying. They're just ranking the players, right? Now, there'll be quarterbacks that are ranked less than him that might go ahead of him because, like you said, there's 2 drafts every year, the quarterback draft and the NFL draft. But Derek Harmon, I would be okay with. He's one of them I got earmarked. Early in the process, but as it sits right now, I think that could potentially be a dude that could be a 3-tech of ours of the future. But
yeah, I mean, and with his kind of numbers, pass rush grade of an 86.2, run defense 79.4, true pass set pass rush grade 91.1. And it looks like he had 5 sacks, 7 hits, 43 hurries, and 2 batted balls this season. Yeah. Season before he had 18 hurries. So, I mean, dude doubled his hurries in a season.
Yep, and look at the versatility. He was in the B gap the majority of the time. That's what we call 3-tech, right?
Right.
So 3-tech, and then he was also straight up over the tackle 188, meaning he played a 4-tech. That's a true 3-tech. That's what we're talking about. If you looked in there and it said A gap, you go, probably not a 3-tech, right? He's definitely a 3-tech. So Joseph, I don't have any problem early on here with Derek Harmon.
Pass rush win rate of a 17.6%. That's
wow.
I like that.
King Tron with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, "What's up, PTA? Let's get hyped for the potential additions this offseason. Heads up, it's going to be fun. Goot will make moves. Smash the like button. Appreciate you, Tron. Thank you for doing it.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, you guys are seriously, man. Y'all are too kind. You really are. Let's see here. Drew D, how do you have 43 hurries in a season?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
We need to ask that guy. We need to ask him how we did it and see if we can get some of that over here.
Yeah. So in the top part of the draft, the ones that I got earmarked, we talked about Derek Harmon. Let's go back up. The top one, it doesn't mean he's going to be my best defensive tackle. He's just the highest ranked guy that I have earmarked as liking is Tyleek Williams. PFF grades 80.9, 77.6, 79.6. Just steady Eddie in that regard. He'll be 22 years old at the draft. When you look at where he lines up, he's a 3-tech. 384 snaps at B gap at the 3, and then 132 over the tackle.
He's a run defending 3-tech, from what you can tell.
Look at that run defense, yeah.
16 hurries. 17 hurries the year before, 3 sacks. So not like our boy we just checked out, but and is that something we're looking for, Clay? Is that something that we want to – do we want a pass rushing 3-tech, or do we want a dog run defender 3-tech that can just kind of clog up the middle?
The answer is yes. We want both.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like we brought in Devontae Wyatt because he can rush the passer, but then we have TJ Slayton to stop the run. It's like is someone that can do both. That's ideally what we're looking for.
Right. And to me, Tyleek doesn't seem like that guy on the surface, right? But we'll see. Now, Oregon this year, they can't – usually they throw out the argument and go, yeah, but Oregon's playing bad competition.
Right.
They're in the Big Ten now. We can no longer say that, right? So pretty much playing the same competition that Tyleek was. So Tyleek's first on my list. I'm glad – this is why we do this and we do it live on the show, is to kind of pick through and figure out what's their strengths, what's their weaknesses, right? A little exercise. So Tyleek, matter of fact, I'm going to put run. I'm going to put an R next to it just to show that he is more of a run defender than balance. TJ Sanders is next that I like. 57.4, 72.5, 82.4. All right. He's from South Carolina. He's 6'4", 290, a little light in the loafers. He also was a B gapper at 394 snaps at B gap. Look at that! Look at that pass rush win rate. Then look at the run stop rate too.
This dude being split across the board, I like that. Played B gap a lot, dabbled in A gap a little bit more, maybe I think than we would quite want in 2023. But 19 hurries, pushing 20 hurries. That's great for this year. 5 sacks the past 2 years actually. So getting production. Looks like struggles maybe a little bit against better talent. A bad grade against Vandy, Oklahoma, but showed up a few times. Looking at it, I think I'm still leaning on Harmon at the current moment just because of that production. But is that production going to carry over?
Right. I mean, he sure did everything he could do.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, I like him better than Tyleek, but to be honest with you, I really do. So TJ Sanders is definitely on the short list here. Next is Walter Nolan. I've talked about him a lot. He was one that grabbed my attention. 68, 72, 88 this year. He's 6'3", 305, and I'm pretty sure 432 snaps in the B gap. He played 103 over the tackle and actually 28 outside of the tackle. So that kind of feels like Chris Jones, right?
Yep.
Man, look at this. God, you have the floor, Emilio. This is crazy.
Hand it off to my man. 26 hurries, 6 sacks this season, 7 this season before. Pass rush grade of a 74 flat, run defense of a 91.6, true pass set pass rush grade of an 80 flat, pass rush win rate of 10%, which we're always looking for, want to be over 10, right? And a run stop rate of 11.9. I mean, I like to see that.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to mark these as we go. That's two that I'm really excited about, man, is TJ Sanders and Walter Nolan. As we were looking at TJ Sanders, I'm thinking, maybe I like him more than Walter Nolan. But then as you dip into it, it's like, no, Walter Nolan's still my guy. He's still my guy.
And I'm glad I like seeing that the snaps increased and his play didn't decrease. If we're asking a big man to be out there 600 snaps, 500, 600, 700 snaps a season, I want you to be able to produce in that amount of time. You know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. Up next of the ones I've got earmarked is Alfred Collins from Texas. He is 6'5", 320. That man is thick, let me tell you. There you go. Was it Joseph asking? Yeah. Here we go, Joseph. PFF grades 68, 79, 87. All right, out of Texas. And, of course, look at the versatility. B gap, 299 snaps. A gap, 145 snaps. Over tackle, 129 and 19 snaps outside of the tackle. So he is definitely a more balanced from a sense of you can play him as the one tech or the 3. Right. But let's see what the grades suggest. That he's a better run defender, you think here, Emilio, looks like?
Yeah, it looks like because when you bring in the stats into it, 0 hits this year, that's kind of tough. Only 1 sack. Also a little tough, and hurries at 17. That's not bad. Kind of where everybody else has been sitting besides the Oregon fella. The only issue is that sack production. If you kind of want someone that's going to break through the line, you want to see a little bit more production just because he's closer to the quarterback. If we can get some sacks, I'd like to have that number over 5 if we're trying to look for someone that can play, run, and pass in that 3-tech spot.
Yeah, so those are the ones we had earmarked, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive tackles that I thought, man, these guys are really popping to me. Mm-hmm. But there's 2 that made it to the next level, and that's TJ Sanders and Walter Nolan. So now, where are they projected, right? If I go to the consensus big board, I won't take the time to put it on the screen so we don't lose where we're at. But if we go to the consensus big board, we're looking for TJ Sanders and Walter Nolan, right? Let's see where we got them here. There's Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Shamar Stewart. Where are these guys at? Walter Nolan is 94th. He's projected to go number 25 to the Texans. So there's a guy that may be available. And then TJ Sanders. Hopefully I didn't overlook him already. Let me see here. TJ Sanders. Where you at, dude? Almost at. Nope. 56. 56. And he's going to be at the Senior Bowl. So that's a name to look for. He peaked at 45, but he's sitting at 56. I'm telling you, man. Trade down, and whichever one of those two are available, that should be your first pick.
Right.
Make multiple swings in the second and third round. Even if it's, I'm not saying trade completely out of the first, but trade down 5 picks or something, whatever. Because if you can get one of those two dudes and pick up draft picks, I really like the way he's sitting.
Yep.
So there is the defensive tackle. Now, we were going to dive a little deeper, right, and just see if anything grabbed our attention. So we're going to walk through. There's Tim's guy, Deion Walker. All right.
Yep.
Obviously took a step back this year at Kentucky, but again, watching that firsthand, that whole defense took a step back. So I don't know if, I don't know. I'm not going to read too deep into it, why he took a step back or why, Hairston did as well at the cornerback position, but it is what it is. We talked Harmon. So let's comb through and see. Let's just focus on these PFF grades, see if anybody else kind of sticks out here. Here's one. Simeon Barrow Jr. out of Miami, 114th ranked, 77, 72, 81 for him. And it looks like he was a B-gapper as well, 218 snaps. He played in the 3-tech, 87 snaps in the A-gap, which would be a 1-tech. Over the tackle, 96 snaps, and outside of the tackle, 17.
And some stat production with 7 sacks, 21 hurries. I like that.
Ooh-wee. Yeah, so there's a guy that outside of the top 100, according to PFF, might be a dog. Run defense grade, 84. Pass rush win rate, 11.3%. Run stop rate, 7.8%. And like I said, that pass rush grade is 72.1. So, and again, what team you play for? Miami. Let's look at some of the best competition that they play. Do they play a whole lot of competition? That's what you got to keep in mind, right? Not seeing anybody really. Are you?
No.
Yeah,
not really.
It doesn't help his case. It doesn't mean he's a bad football player, but you can't look at that and go, wow, they played some of the best college teams, right?
Right.
Let's comb through again. Riley Mills obviously dealt with an injury. He was really big last year. This year took a step back. Obviously played 539 snaps, but he got hurt towards the end of the year. I don't know if he's going to be completely healthy for the draft. Hopefully he is. But again, it's not one that I'm really overly concerned. I love my Irish, but he's just not one that pops.
Production, though, Clay, 21 hurries this past year, 8 sacks. Year before, 20 hurries, 3 sacks. So he's getting
better.
So he's getting better.
And keep in mind, I'm trying to think, the other big boy in the middle for the Irish, he went down with an injury. Howard Cross, the third. He went down with an injury, and Riley Mills stepped up big time. And then Riley Mills went down with an injury. So now it's Howard Cross trying to fill that gap for that.
And Riley Mills looks pretty much like a strictly pass rush guy. Pass rush grade of an 83.1. True pass rush grade of an 80.9. Run defense grade 61.9. Pass rush win rate 14.3%. And a run stop rate of 5%. So I think that's our pass rush guy. That would be, a terror inside. 8 sacks. I like that, though. Over 20 hurries. I like that, too.
Yeah. CJ West from Indiana. So 6'2", 317 pounds. He's a redshirt senior, so he's going to be old, obviously probably 24, kind of like that Devontae Wyatt type. 80, 85, 83. Why is he ranked 160? Is it he battle with an injury or something?
I think he is that nose, Clay.
He's an A-gap. Yep, you're right. He plays a lot of 1-tech and nose. 219 snaps in the A, 198 in the B, and just 3 over tackle, none outside. Yeah, you're right. So that's your traditional nose tackle type.
Tough.
Right?
4 sacks overall in the past 3 years. 19 hurries. That's not bad, but 1 sack this past year. Mm-hmm. Don't love it. I mean, why don't it's because our defense played so well against the run this year. Why are we looking to try to bolster that? I think if we kind of keep steady Eddie and keep grinding there, we'll be all right. I think we just need a spark in the pass rush. We need to be able to have guys when someone's taking a double team, we need people to win one-on-one battles. Well, however you do it, whatever you're going to do, we need one-on-one winners. I think that's kind of where we need to be heading.
Yeah, it looks like his best game of the year, or second best of the game of the year, was against Notre Dame in the playoffs at 81.4. So he showed up in the big game. Check this out, Emilio, something worth mentioning. 2023, he played 384 snaps as a 3-tech, right? And he had a higher grade at an 85.9.
Right.
So that's something to keep an eye on there. I don't know what his production is. 2 sacks? Yeah, so he had two sacks.
Sacks.
What's that?
His most sacks, most hits. So
yeah. Makes sense, though, being in the 3-tech, but someone to keep an eye on there. CJ West might be one of those later guys at like I said, ranked 160. Would you be okay with taking him, let's say, in the 3rd or 4th round? I would. Right?
I would take a shot at it for sure.
And that's the problem, too, is sometimes general managers will look at the draft and go, we got a similar grade on these 2 guys that are later in the draft. Let's wait. Then you find yourself in no man's land. Other teams swoop them up, and you don't feel that need, right?
Right.
So that's the tough part. Look at this guy right here, man. I don't know how to say his name.
Aeneas Peebles.
Made me want some Fruity Pebbles reading that name. 65.8, 86.1, 88.6. He's 6'1", 290, so a little bit undersized. That's going to hurt him in the draft. That's probably why he's down here so low. He's a 3-tech, right?
Yep.
What do you think about him, man?
He's a dog here. Pass rush grade 91 flat. True pass set 90.9. Pass rush win rate of a 17% flat. And run defense of a 78.5. And the guy gets hurries. 31 this year, 24 the year before, 14 the year before that. Had 3 sacks this year, 6 before that. I like that kind of production, especially later on in the draft. I mean, this guy's he's kind of slipping down a little bit, but the fact that we can get that kind of pass rush rate and 30 hurries, thank you. Anything over 20, sacks over 5, a little shy there. But he was also, who else was on Virginia Tech? Who's that number 52? That crazy edge from Virginia Tech. I forgot his name, but maybe that guy's pulling looks from him to allow this guy to take off. But still, I wouldn't be opposed to, taking a little deep dive at they have him ranked 170 here. So,
Yeah, King Tron says CJ West is a good player. I'd love to have him in the 3rd or 4th still. Peebles is one that's going to make my list. I'm going to tell you right now, man. I mean, he is. I know he was talking about the other player there, but yeah, this dude. When we look at the talent that he played, though, we got to take that into consideration, right? Played Clemson, 84.5. Miami had a decent team this year, right? 77.7. Yep. He dominated Old Dominion, but that's not saying much, right? And then who is that right there? Is that Vandy?
Yep.
I think that's Vandy. Yes, 78.6, which Vandy ain't no powerhouse. So obviously didn't play the most talented opponents, right? Definitely worth mentioning. So good stuff there. All right, let's just go rapid fire now. Yeah, we keep finding them, man. Here's another Toledo Rocket, right? Remember last year, who was it in the 1st round? His name's
Dallas. I'm sorry, Mitchell. Dallas Gant was Jacob's Toledo boy.
Yeah. So here you go, 77, 80, and 90 out of Toledo is Jaire Alexander, 6'4", 310. Got that size.
He's a dog.
He's a 3-techer. Holy cow. Pass rush win rate, 12.1%. Run stop rate, 7.9%. Run defense grade, 90.3. Pass rush grade, 76.6. This is a pretty deep draft for defensive tackle, is it?
And I like that. Dude had 30 hurries last year, 7 sacks. This year, 25 hurries, 4 sacks. Those are kind of numbers you like, especially where his run defense grades out of 93. Dude can stop the run, still get a handful of pressures. That's all I'm asking you. If we can seal you in and you can get pressure up the middle, I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. King Tron with the super chat. Got a troll in here. Bears fans crying.
Oh, man, I haven't even been paying attention to the chat.
I ain't either, man. Who is it? Shout them out, man. Give us a name here. Let's see who we got in here.
What was that here? Oh, here it is. I think it's this guy right here.
I hack a lot. All right. Sweet name. Love is the worst quarterback in the division. Overpaid trash. LOL, man. Oh, man. That's
So we were asked if we could punt him. I hack a lot. What is the shape of Italy, my man?
If you get this right, you can stay. What's the shape of Italy?
That's all I'm asking for you.
Yeah. We're waiting on you. I hack a lot. This is good podcasting here. All right. This is right.
Oh, boy. Chris N, man. That's
just look for the answer, Emilio. As soon as you get it, let me know. I'm gonna comb through
the answer. I hack a lot. Oh no, he's not gonna say it. He knows what's gonna happen. He's
been
in an Xbox party before.
Let's give him Das Boot.
Yeah, that's actually the answer you were looking for. Shape of Italy is a boot, my man.
Yeah, there it is. Moment of silence for hack a lot.
All right, back to Toledo. Dude is a dog. I hacks. You can't take him from us. He's probably scouting for the Bears. He's probably like, well, RT doesn't do anything. I'm going to send in a little letter to the Bears, tell them who to scout.
Yeah. That's Caleb Williams over. He got bored with watching tape. So I'm going to go on YouTube and watch something. And he ends up here. Cam Horsley out of Boston College. Steady increase. We're going to pass on it right now. 70, 72, 70, 79. Not bad, right? Looking for those guys that are on that incline, right, and kind of stabilize. Here's Howard Cross last year. Again, he got hurt, but last year played 610 snaps, 89.8. He's all the way down to 225. So that injury's got to be – they're planning on it bleeding into next year, I would imagine, because he was in the top 30.
Scroll down a little bit more, Clay. I got you a dog right there.
Oh, have mercy. Thor. His name is Thor. All right, now we're getting into it, boys. King Tron with the super chat. Dude smoking crack with his grandma talking about the Bears fan. Not Thor. We're talking about the Bears fan. Damn weed. Appreciate the super chat, Tron. The smoking crack with the granny always gets you. Yeah, Thor Griffith out of Louisville. Red shirt senior. He's going to be old, right? Mm-hmm. 6'2", 320. So he's definitely thick. He's a three-technical.
Floated inside a little bit more than we would like, but I mean 230 is spot. We're not, you're not asking him for him to be perfect, but pass rush and run stop win rate right around 8% apiece. That's consistency. That's solid across the board. I do kind of like that. Played great against Miami, and kind of decent the rest of the games. So not terrible for a guy coming from Louisville. You know what I mean?
Thick.
6'2", 320. You can put him in the A gap when you need to, right? Like he could be a little bit versatile. Now, again, where is he at? 230th. Yeah. You're telling me we can get him in the final couple of rounds? Sign me up, right? Yeah. Not bad at all for a late round gem. Matter of fact, I may pencil him in here on the sheet as well. Let's see, as far as opponents played, Miami a 93.2 against Miami. Held his own against Notre Dame, 67.2. Not horrible, right? So those are two teams that are pretty good football teams. Washington was good going into this year. I don't know where they finished this year, but 77 against them. I'm going to write him down as a late round potential gem so we can look into him a little bit more. So we'll go D tackle Thor Griffith. Love the name, by the way, man. Just the name alone.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if LVM pops this year? You draft Thor Griffith, so you got Hercules next to Thor, next to Bane Gary. Let's go, man. Kidding me? Sound like a movie in the making. All right. Steady decline there from Joey Slackman. He was slacking this year.
I'm thinking he got hurt. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, he
112. You're right. Yeah,
looks like he plays a lot of B gap, over the tackle sort of stuff. In his last year when he played, 6 sacks, 12 hurries. Not the hurries we're looking for. Did have the sack numbers, but it doesn't quite look like the dude rushes. At least from this year, didn't rush super well.
Right. Previous years, though, if you didn't have that injury and he kept tracking this, he's probably a top prospect, right?
So, I mean, yeah, because last year he was the third out of 883 D linemen. So, I mean, that's impressive at that 90.7 last year.
Yeah, and his best game of the year this year was Miami, 70.6. Next would be Texas. That was at Texas, a 68.9. So there you go with Joey Slackman. Again, sucks the injuries kind of reroute these guys in their career arc, but that's what it is. All right, man. I think we covered that pretty extensively, dude. We got us some late round names. We confirmed some of the early round guys. I wanted to look at some of the centers. We'll probably do that on our next show. May watch some playoff football tonight. Don't know for sure. I'm going to check with the boss downstairs, and if we ain't got nothing going on, you guys will see a show get scheduled here a little bit later. If not, then I'll see y'all in the morning. But hey, appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely.
I know it's hit or miss for you on the weekends. If you're available later, why don't you just shoot me a text and let me know if you're on, and I'm around. We'll do another one later on.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
And
love breaking it down. I think we got a busy day ahead of us. A little bit of NFL, a little bit of scouting. I think we're doing both now. Now we're watching talent in the NFL, keeping an eye on anyone that might peel off these teams. See where where they're excelling, where we need to get better, and watch a little film on some college guys.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. This is the best time of the year for sure. Shout out to King Tron. King Tom with 3 super chats. We appreciate you so much, buddy. Thank you for supporting the channel. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. Shout out to the Patreon group as well. If you guys want to join that, hop over to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. And as long as you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, that'll enter you into giveaways. And it also gives you access to 3-4 different chats where we're talking all sorts of stuff in there. We got it kind of specified. So you're not, if you want to talk draft, We'll make sure you're in a part of the chat that's going to talk draft. Matter of fact, I'm going to create a draft channel today on there, and then we've also got questions for the show. If you want your questions read or comments read, just like King Tron did here with the super chat, that's another way to get your voice heard here on the channel. So again, thank you for your time. We'll see y'all later. It'll either be tonight or tomorrow morning. We appreciate y'all's time. Have a great day.
And we go.
Bye, guys.